Just a very quick update today, starting with, of all things, monkeys. Monkeys have once again escaped the Alpha Genesis Primate Center, the so-called monkey farm, the place the egg juror told the court that she was employed during the Alex Murdaugh trial. There have been smaller escapes previously, but this time it was 40 monkeys that are now free roaming in Yemasee, South Carolina. Local police have advised residents to call 911 if they spot any of them, and also warned people not to attempt to engage with them or touch them. Alpha Genesis is a biofacility, and the primates are regularly used as test subjects. The lab has not publicly said what the monkeys could have possibly been exposed to or subjected to as far as any kinds of diseases or deficiencies that they might have. So any viewers in that area, please be careful out there, especially with your children. Since it's been a while that they've been out, they're most certainly hungry. Having been raised being fed by humans, and with the time of the year that it is now, they will most likely not know how to find food, or know what foods they should even be eating out there. This might drive them to humans, or to easy access food like garbage cans, composts, fruit trees, or gardens that might still have a little food left. So please be careful. Next, we have an update on the case I covered here just a couple of days ago, and that was the hearing about the motion to change venue presented by Will Folks and Fitz News in the lawsuit against them brought about by Austin Stanley, whose face appeared on all forms of Fitz News media not once, but twice, labeled as prime suspect in the murder of Stephen Smith. He is not, nor ever has been, a suspect in that murder. Defense was attempting to have the case moved from Stanley's hometown of Hampton to Richland or Lexington counties. Judge Bonds held a hearing on Monday and said he would give his decision by end of week. He ruled yesterday, and he ruled in favor of Austin Stanley, stating in the order, "This matter came before the court upon defendant's motion to transfer venue on November the 4th, 2024. After careful consideration, defendant's motion to transfer venue is respectfully denied because A. Hampton County is where the publication to the third parties who would recognize plaintiff was. B. Plaintiff's reputation was harmed in this community of Hampton County, and the tort of defamation seeks to restore the defamed plaintiff's reputation in their community. And C. Hampton County is the central hub of the allegations made in plaintiff's complaint. Plaintiff must provide a more formal order for this court to consider in conjunction with this order within 14 days. This was signed on the 5th and filed on the 6th. A case I reported on here back on May 29th was a lawsuit brought against BakerHosteltler and Jason DeCruz. If those names sound familiar, these are two of the defendants also named in the conspiracy case that Mallory Beach's family filed when privileged information and photos of a deceased Mallory Beach ended up being leaked to a blogger, private investigators, and producers of a documentary. Sara Capelli was one of the private investigators hired by BakerHosteltler, a firm that represents Parker. I'll post the link to this episode that explains her claims against BakerHosteltler, a large national law firm, and Jason, who hired her to get dirt to help Parker in his defense for the boat crash case in which he was one of many defendants. She was advised by DeCruz and the firm not to respond to subpoena requests, and to instead hire counsel that they, in turn, never reimbursed her for. If this whole story wasn't bizarre enough, another order was filed yesterday by Judge Addy, the judge in Sara Capelli's lawsuit. This is an order of his decision, but he writes quite extensively about this matter. This matter came before the court on October 29, 2024, at the 10:30 a.m. slot for a WebEx hearing on defendant's motion to dismiss. They were trying to dismiss Jason DeCruz, by the way. Plaintiff was represented by Riley Adams, so Riley Adams is Sara Capelli's attorney, and defendant was represented by Deborah Barbier. The court finds as follows. As an initial matter, plaintiff agreed that to the extent defendant DeCruz is being sued in his individual capacity, he should be dismissed without prejudice. This matter is related to case 2021 CP 25392 out of Hampton County. The genesis of these cases is of some renown. In the present case, defendant contracted with plaintiff to do research in an effort to aid another client of defendant. Plaintiff is suing for breach of that contract, essentially alleging that defendants did not indemnify plaintiff for expenses she incurred during the course of plaintiff's work. Defendants maintain that plaintiff's expenses in responding to a third-party subpoena do not come within the scope of the indemnification provision, are not reimbursable as a matter of law, and defendant is therefore entitled to judgment on the pleadings. But this is the part that's really interesting to me. He says, "Clearly, there is more to this case than meets the eye, and the court has reviewed the video recording of the October 19th hearing. At the 1 hour, 18 minute, and 39-second mark, counsel for defendant stated something curious." This would be Deborah Barbier. Counsel asserted, "Lawyers from other cases, we believe, are part of plaintiff's decision to sue defendant." That is a crazy claim to make. So basically, in this hearing, Deborah Barbier stands before the court and says that in her belief, this woman is not suing on behalf of herself, but is suing on behalf of lawyers from other cases, lawyers that are not Capelli's lawyers. Counsel further asserted that this action is being brought purely in an effort to harass defendant. Capelli brought this case because she was left with legal fees as a result of her being hired by this firm and this man to investigate members involved in the boat crash. How does that have anything to do with any other attorneys? It goes on, from a review of the clerk's online records in case 2021 CP 25392, the court appreciates the tortured procedural history of that case. The court also believes that the manner by which the Charleston case progresses may ultimately have some effect upon the Hampton litigation. For those reasons, the court believes it would be best if defendant's motion were to be addressed by the jurist who is ultimately appointed in the Hampton litigation. Accordingly, this judge declines to rule on defendant's motion and will recommend to the Charleston Chief Administrative Judge that this motion be assigned to whomever is designated to hear 2021 CP 25392. So as if that case is not already so messed up, it's already been through 2 judges, and if you remember in a recent update, the judge who was assigned to replace Judge Price has just recused himself, so they are currently without judge. So apparently Miss Barbier, whom you may remember as being Corey Fleming's defense attorney, has now gone from the boat crash case to the conspiracy case, and now to this separate case by Sara Capelli, who, by the way, as mentioned, has her own separate attorneys. But Miss Barbier has now entered a third case with the same defense for all of them. Blame attorneys from the boat crash case for everything. She's fought to have them removed from 2 cases, so far unsuccessfully, but now, in an attempt to shut down a third case, is blaming the same 2 attorneys who have absolutely nothing to do with this case. Those attorneys being Mark Tinsley and Tabor Vaux. Miss Capelli was hired, as mentioned, to get dirt on people involved in the boat crash. Her lawsuit stands on its own merit, but Miss Barbier, who cannot show that her client did not leak this information and did not hire Miss Capelli to find this dirt, can only stomp her feet and blame the lawyers who first tried to hold her client responsible and keep demanding that they be removed from the case. It's bizarre indeed that she's bringing up attorneys who have no affiliation to Miss Capelli's case. One of the attorneys, in describing Miss Capelli at one point as having the worst case of diarrhea of the mouth he'd ever heard. That statement is in court documents. It hardly sounds like they're friends or in cahoots. But the judge's response kinda made me giggle, and as the inspiration for the title of this podcast, Not My Monkeys, Not My Circus. He heard this mess and said, "Nope, I'm not touching this," and sent it back to whatever judge will take on the conspiracy case. I'm attempting to get a copy of that transcript right now, and if I can, I'll share those details of how it went down with you then. I'm working on the next episode of Murdaugh Mafia, and I'm hoping to get that to you this weekend. We'll be finishing up Buster's Whiskey conspiracy trial and the aftermath of that trial. I'm also working on a super secret project that I cannot wait to reveal to you later this month. And the last update, the interview with juror Amy Williams and her co-author Shayna Price is looking like it will happen next Thursday. So please save the date for that and prepare your questions for her. Till next time, this is Kassidy O'Connell saying stay well and stay tuned.